everyone, this is Lizanne D'Souza. I am the founder at Liz Lynn Careers, and today we're going to be recording another episode of my podcast called Hire, Fire, Inspire. I'm also recording this video for YouTube, so yeah, we're also going to be releasing this content on YouTube, so people who prefer watching video rather than just listening to the audio, the same content will now be available there as well. First of all, I just want to thank you all for listening in. You know, we've started to do these solo podcasts that are a shorter format, and we've got some really good response. So thank you so much. We're still going to be doing our guest podcast, which will be the longer format where we talk about more business related topics. And in today's episode, I'm just going to jump right into it because we want to keep it short, remember. The conversation that we're having today is about, the title is Tired of Getting Rejected, How to Get Hired. I don't know what the word for being non-hireable or I feel like a lot of people, have this question as to why am I not getting hired, or like what is wrong with me, or is it my resume, or is it like the experience that I have, or is it the industry that I'm part of? Is that the issue? And recently, I've seen a lot of companies who've let go of their employees, right? For different reasons. And so it's a no-brainer, that there are a higher number of applicants now in the job market compared to the amount of roles that are available. A lot of times I see posts on LinkedIn as well of people asking, why am I not getting a job? These questions can often create a lack of enthusiasm while applying for multiple roles, and also make people feel super demotivated. Eventually, a lot of people also ask me, like I said, what am I doing wrong? Can you please look at my CV? Can you please look at my LinkedIn profile? Can you tell me what I need to change to make it better? And, in order to make it feel like more hireable, like I said. Of course, your resume and your LinkedIn profile can make a huge difference on how you are perceived, but it may not make you hireable. It's not the only thing, right? Because there are several stages now that come on later on in terms of the whole interview process. So today what I've done is I've come up with some tips that could help you become more hireable, more desirable in the job market. And, at the end of it, I'd love to hear back from you if these tips were helpful. So the first tip that I'm going to give you guys, and this is all based on obviously my experience as a recruiter, and I'm also someone who has given several interviews in my life because I've worked for other people as well. I didn't just start this. This is not the first thing I've done. I have worked for several years for other people and been on the other side where I've given interviews as well. So one of the first tips that I want to talk to you guys about is read the job posting. The job that is actually posted on LinkedIn or Naukri or any other portal. Please read it correctly, because applying for jobs that you do not have the skills for is not going to help at all. And only apply for the roles that you have the skills for, because that's just going to be a waste of your time, and you're going to end up feeling even more rejected if people don't get back to you, or don't take your resume forward, right? So I think it's best to only apply for the jobs that actually resonate with what you've done and relevant to the experience that you have in the first place. So often I see people who are looking for jobs and just spam HR people, just sending their resume for jobs, even if it's not relevant. You don't do that anymore. It's not really going to get you anywhere. So please read the job description properly, see if you have the relevant experience, and only then go ahead. Make your resume a lot more interesting. Yes, like I said, it's not the only thing. However, it does set the tone for the first impression, right? So make sure your resume is formatted well. Obviously, your normal checks, like I said, formatting, spell checks, make sure that it's not too long. Make sure, you put in numbers to show results oriented work that you've done, and can explain the kind of value that you've added to the company while you're there. Okay, so I'm not going to go into a lot of details about resume writing because we do a lot of content over that, but you can Google how to create a simple but effective resume, and you'll get a lot of tips. Use action words, be clear about the kind of role that you had, make it more results centric in terms of what is the value that you added. Okay, the next tip is make sure you do not have too many gaps in your work career unless you have a very good reason to do so. I know that sometimes life takes different turns and things happen, and because of that we do need to take some time off work, and that's completely understandable. But try to avoid them as much as possible by maybe doing some freelance work in between, or doing some project-based work in between if you can. If you can't, then please make sure that you explain this to the interviewer through maybe a cover letter, or when you're sharing your resume on email, explaining why there's a gap in your resume. And if you have a legitimate reason as to why that is, then I don't think any recruiter would hold that against you, right? Okay. The next tip is that if the job posting asks for a cover letter, and I know I'm stressing on this even though a lot of people ignore it completely, I feel like if a job is asking you to add a cover letter to the application, then please do so. This is your chance to summarize your skills and your career goals and explain to the organization, to the interviewer, why you are the right person for this job. So don't miss out on that chance of actually having that chance to pitch yourself, right, to the interviewer. So I'm also going to suggest that people who are currently in jobs work for a job, the same job at least, for anywhere between 1 to 3 years, okay? If you want to be able to gain knowledge and do it really well, like perform a task or gain knowledge about a certain role or designation really well, then anywhere between 1 to 3 years is going to give you that edge and make you really good at your job compared to somebody who has only 1 year experience doing the same thing, right? Especially if you've stuck to the same job in the same company, it means that you know that role inside out because you haven't moved so much. Okay, continuously learn to stay up to date. Learning never stops. Okay, by the way, this is the next tip. Learning never stops, and everyone wants to hire someone who doesn't need to be told, go and learn something, or why don't you do this course. Everyone's looking for someone who's proactive, who takes initiative, who's always coming to meetings with ideas of their own, who's coming with suggestions, who's figuring out how to do things better. Okay, and nobody wants to quote someone on what, like, market trends or what's happening in the industry right now. So I would suggest that anyone, if you're looking to be hireable at any point of your life, please make sure that you're very, very well aware of what's going on in the industry that you work in, right? And yeah, the last point is also know the industry in and out. Look at what's happening, what other companies are doing. This is really going to help you put you above all the other candidates that are applying. While I was doing research for this podcast topic today, I came across something really, really interesting. When you talk about your job, right, we don't really want to talk about the tasks that we perform, but all of us are here, or all of us are hired to solve a problem. Okay, and focusing on the problem that you resolve and the skills that you have and how you've resolved a problem in your previous role or in the role that you're applying for is definitely going to make you more hireable. For example, nobody wants to know how many emails you scheduled or what you did in terms of tasks. It's more about what is the problem that you resolved in your last job, and how are you going to be able to come on board and help this company resolve the issues that they had. Something really interesting also I came across, that all of us can add value in 3 different ways to any organization. One is to decrease expenses, the second one is to increase profit, and then the third one is to increase productivity. So if you can find where you fit into all of this, and you can explain it well through all of the other, through all of the platforms that you have, be it your resume, be it your cover letter, be it your LinkedIn profile, or during the interview, then I definitely think you're going to be able to make a good impression and thus be hired. Okay, so that's all I have for today. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I know that we can go more into depth about all these conversations, and we will be putting out some more content. Again, thank you so much for listening. Waiting to hear back from you with any feedback that you may have or any topics that you want us to cover. Thank you, and I'll see you soon later. Bye.